The front door opened just as my mother-in-law pointed at me and screamed, "Get out of my house." I still remember the exact way her finger shook as she pointed toward the porch. I was standing there holding my 2-year-old daughter, Lily, on my hip. She had one hand tangled in my hair and the other wrapped around her stuffed rabbit. The entire room had gone silent. My husband, Ethan, stood beside his mother with a white envelope in his hand. Inside that envelope was a DNA report. According to him, my daughter wasn't his. I blinked at him. Once. Twice. I honestly thought it was some kind of joke. Then I looked around the room. His father, his sister, 2 cousins, an aunt, even his grandmother. All sitting in the living room, all staring at me like I was a criminal, like I had just confessed to something horrible. Lily looked around the room and frowned. "Mama?" I swallowed hard. "Ethan, what is this?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tossed the report onto the coffee table. "You know exactly what this is." I stared at the paper, then at him, then back at the paper. I didn't move. I couldn't, because none of this made any sense. "I've never even seen this." "Because you're a liar." The words came from my mother-in-law, Patricia. She stood there with her arms crossed, her face twisted with anger. "I knew there was something wrong with you from the moment my son married you." I looked at her in disbelief. "What? You humiliated our family." Lily suddenly buried her face against my shoulder. She hated yelling. I rubbed her back. Everything inside me felt numb. "Ethan, tell me what's going on." He looked away. That hurt more than anything. Because for 6 years this man had been my best friend, my partner, the father of my child, and now he couldn't even look me in the eye. "The DNA test says Lily isn't mine." I laughed. Actually laughed. A short, confused laugh. Because it was so absurd. "That's impossible." Patricia stepped forward. "You don't get to say what's impossible." I looked at Ethan. "Did you really do a DNA test behind my back?" He finally met my eyes. "Yes." "When?" "A few weeks ago." "A few weeks ago?" I couldn't breathe. A few weeks ago I had been at Fort Liberty finishing a training exercise. A few weeks ago I had been calling him every night. A few weeks ago he had been telling me he loved me. And all this time, he'd been planning this. I looked at the report, then at him, then back at the report. "No." He frowned. "No? No, I don't accept this." His sister scoffed. "Of course you don't." I ignored her. "Ethan, this has to be a mistake." Patricia laughed. "Mistake? The laboratory says otherwise." I picked up the paper. I had never heard of the laboratory, never, not once. I looked at the document more carefully. No court seal, no official certification, no chain of custody, nothing. The whole thing looked strange. I looked back at him. "Who took Lily's sample?" He hesitated. That was the first thing that made my stomach drop. "Who took her sample, Ethan?" "I did." "When?" He didn't answer. "When?" "While you were gone." I felt cold, ice cold. He had secretly tested our daughter while I was away. Without my permission, without even telling me. Patricia folded her arms. "You should have confessed before it came to this." I stared at her. "Confessed? To what? Being faithful? Being a good mother? Working long hours serving my country?" I couldn't understand what was happening. Then Ethan spoke. "I want a divorce." The room disappeared. Everything went quiet. Even the sound of my own breathing. Lily looked up at me. "Mama?" I kissed her forehead. I didn't realize I was crying until I tasted salt. "You want a divorce?" He nodded. "Yes. After 6 years, after all our promises, after every deployment, after every sacrifice." This was how he ended our marriage. In front of an audience. Like some kind of public execution. Patricia pointed toward the door again. "Take your things and leave." I looked around the room. Nobody said a word. Nobody defended me. Nobody asked questions. They had already decided I was guilty. I adjusted Lily on my hip. My hands were shaking. I opened my mouth to speak. And then the front door opened. Nobody had knocked. A tall man stepped inside wearing his army service uniform. 3 stars shined on his shoulders. Every person in the room froze. Because everyone knew exactly what those stars meant. Lieutenant General Robert Hayes. My commanding officer. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. General Hayes looked around the room. Then his eyes landed on me. He saw my tears. He saw Lily clinging to my neck. He saw the suitcase beside the couch. And finally, he saw the DNA report on the coffee table. A long silence filled the room. Then he spoke. "Captain Carter," my throat tightened. "Sir," he frowned. "Am I interrupting something?" Nobody answered. Patricia suddenly looked nervous. Ethan looked pale. The general slowly stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He looked around again, then back at me. "Captain, are you all right?" I tried to answer. I really did, but no words came out. Then Lily whispered, "Mama's sad." The general's expression changed. He looked at the room again, this time much more carefully. Then he asked a question that would change everything. "Would someone care to explain why one of my finest officers is standing here in tears with a child in her arms?" The room stayed completely silent. Lieutenant General Robert Hayes stood in the doorway, one hand still resting on the doorknob. 3 stars. 36 years of service. A man whose name carried weight across every military installation on the East Coast. And right now, he was staring directly at me. I quickly wiped my tears. "Sir?" He took another step inside. "Captain Carter," I asked if you're all right. Before I could answer, Patricia suddenly spoke. "This is a family matter." The general slowly turned toward her. I had seen that look before, the look he wore before destroying someone in an evaluation meeting. "A family matter, yes." She straightened her shoulders. "My son just discovered that his wife cheated on him." I heard Ethan swallow. General Hayes didn't react, didn't blink, didn't move. Instead, his eyes drifted toward the paper on the coffee table, the DNA report. Then he looked back at Patricia. "I see." Patricia seemed relieved, almost confident, like she expected him to agree with her. "I've asked her to leave our home." The general nodded once. Then he asked calmly, "Has there been an official investigation?" Nobody answered. "No." He looked at Ethan. "Did you request this test through the courts?" "No, sir." "Were both parents present during sample collection?" "No, sir." "Was the chain of custody documented?" Ethan blinked. "I don't know." The general looked at him for a long moment. Then he walked over and picked up the report. The entire room watched. He adjusted his glasses and began reading. 1 minute passed, then another. Finally, he folded the paper. "This laboratory isn't accredited." Silence. Patricia frowned. "What?" He looked at her. "This laboratory isn't accredited." I saw Ethan's face turn pale. The general looked at him again. "Where exactly did you get this report?" "I found the company online." "You found them online?" "Yes, sir." The general nodded. Then he placed the report back on the table. "This document means absolutely nothing." The room froze. Patricia's mouth fell open. "What?" "It isn't legally admissible." She stared at him. "But it says—" "I don't care what it says." His voice remained calm, which somehow made it even scarier. "I've spent 36 years making decisions based on evidence. This is not evidence." Nobody spoke, not even Lily. She was staring at the general with wide eyes. Then she smiled. For some reason, she always liked people in uniform. The general looked at me. "Captain Carter, sir, did you consent to this test?" "No, sir." "Were you informed it was happening?" "No, sir." He nodded. "I suspected as much." Patricia stepped forward. "General, with all due respect." "No, ma'am." She stopped. "The issue here isn't respect." He looked around the room. "The issue here is that every person in this house appears to have already convicted someone without a single piece of verified evidence." Nobody moved. His eyes landed on Ethan. "Did you accuse your wife in front of your entire family?" "Yes, sir." "Did you ask her for an explanation?" "No, sir." "Did you request a legitimate DNA test?" "No, sir." The general's jaw tightened. I had only seen him angry twice before. This was the third. "You publicly humiliated your wife based on an internet document." Ethan didn't answer. "Answer me." "Yes, sir." A long silence followed. Then the general looked at me again. "Captain, gather your things." I blinked. "Sir, you and your daughter are leaving." Patricia folded her arms. "She already is." The general turned slowly toward her. "No, ma'am." The room suddenly felt colder. "She is leaving because I am asking her to." Patricia looked confused. General Hayes continued, "And because I have no intention of allowing one of my officers and her child to remain in an environment like this tonight." Nobody said a word. He looked at me. "Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" I nodded. "My friend Rachel's house." "Good." I picked up Lily's diaper bag, then my purse, then the small suitcase sitting near the couch. Apparently, they had packed it for me. That realization hurt more than anything. They hadn't just accused me. They'd planned for me to leave. The general noticed my expression. He noticed everything. He picked up the suitcase himself. "I'll carry this." "Sir, I can." "I've got it." I nodded. My throat hurt too much to speak. As we walked toward the door, Ethan finally moved. "Claire." I stopped. He looked almost nervous now. I waited. Nothing came. Not an apology, not an explanation. Nothing. I looked at him for a long moment, then I turned away. Lily waved at him. "Bye, Daddy." The entire room shattered. I heard Patricia gasp. I heard someone start crying softly. But Ethan, he looked like someone had punched him. Because for the first time all evening, this wasn't about a DNA test. It was about a little girl saying goodbye to her father. Maybe forever. I walked out of the house, the cool evening air hit my face. General Hayes followed. He placed my suitcase beside my car. Then he turned toward me. Captain Carter, I looked at him. And suddenly, I couldn't hold it together anymore. I started crying, real crying. The kind that comes from somewhere deep. The general didn't interrupt, he simply waited. After nearly a minute, I finally whispered, I didn't do this, I know. I looked up. What? He smiled gently. I know you didn't. Fresh tears rolled down my face. How? Because I've known you for 8 years. I said nothing. I know your character. He looked toward the house. And I know that innocent people often look exactly the way you look right now. Lily touched my cheek. Mama cry. I kissed her little hand. I'm okay, baby. General Hayes reached into his pocket. He handed me a business card. On the back, he wrote 2 names. One was a military attorney. The other was a family law specialist. If this gets ugly, call them. I looked at the card, then back at him. Thank you, sir. He nodded. Then his expression became serious. I need you to listen carefully. Yes, sir. Don't argue with them. I frowned. What? Don't defend yourself tonight. I didn't understand, he continued. People who have already decided you're guilty don't change their minds because you argue louder. I stared at him. They change their minds when the facts become impossible to ignore. Those words stayed with me. Then he added, and something about this entire situation doesn't feel right to me. I looked at him. What do you mean? He looked back toward the house. Then he said the sentence that would change my entire life. I think your husband knows a lot more than he's admitting. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for 5 minutes. Rachel opened the door before I could knock. She took one look at my face, then at Lily sleeping in my arms, and immediately stepped aside. What happened? I couldn't answer. She saw the suitcase, then the tears. Oh my God, she wrapped her arms around me. And that was it. I broke. Again, 3 hours later, I was sitting at her kitchen table. A cup of coffee sat untouched in front of me. Rachel listened quietly while I told her everything. The fake DNA test, the accusations, the divorce, the humiliation, the general, the entire thing. When I finished, she simply stared at me. Then she said, Ethan did what? I nodded. She stood up, started pacing, then sat down again, then stood up again. No. What? This doesn't make sense. I looked at her. Exactly. No, seriously, this doesn't make sense. She pointed toward me. You've been obsessed with that little girl since the day she was born. A weak smile crossed my face. You used to leave training exercises early just to make it to daycare pickup. I looked down. You practically worship your daughter. I didn't answer. Rachel sat back down. And Ethan knows that. I looked at her. What are you saying? She frowned. I'm saying this feels planned. Those were the exact words General Hayes had used. Planned. The thought made my stomach twist. Then my phone buzzed. Ethan. Again. 37 missed calls, 12 text messages. I opened the latest one. Come home. We need to talk. Another message came. Mom didn't mean everything she said. Then another. Answer your phone. I laughed. A bitter laugh. Now he wanted to talk. Now. After he threw me out. Rachel grabbed my phone. Nope. What? No answering, I sighed. I have to deal with this eventually. Eventually, not tonight. She tossed the phone onto the couch. Then she looked at me. You need sleep. I'm not tired. You look like you've been hit by a truck. I feel worse. She smiled sadly. I know. I looked toward the guest room. Lily was asleep. Completely peaceful. Children had a beautiful way of surviving terrible days. I wished I could do the same. Then my phone buzzed again. Rachel looked at it. Her eyes narrowed. It's your mother-in-law, I groaned. She handed me the phone. Voicemail. I pressed play. Patricia's voice filled the kitchen. Claire, I think we all got a little emotional tonight. I nearly dropped the phone. Emotional? She had accused me of cheating, thrown me out of my own house, in front of 20 people. And now, we got emotional? The message continued. If you're innocent, then you should understand why Ethan was upset. Rachel's mouth fell open. I felt numb. Then Patricia said something that made my blood run cold. And if you really love him, you'll stop embarrassing our family and come home so we can deal with this privately. The message ended. Silence. Rachel looked horrified. She actually said that? I nodded slowly. Then I realized something. They're already changing the story. What? I looked at her. They're rewriting what happened. I stood up. When I left that house, they were certain I cheated. I started pacing. Now they're saying everyone was emotional. Rachel frowned. They're trying to protect themselves. Exactly. The moment General Hayes showed up, everything changed. because now there was a witness. An important witness. A 3-star general had seen everything, and suddenly, they needed a different version of events. The realization made my stomach turn. My phone buzzed again, a text from Ethan. Please come home, another, we can figure this out. Another? I didn't want things to happen this way. I stared at the message, then another appeared. Mom pushed things too far. I froze. Rachel looked at me. What? I handed her the phone. She read the text, then looked up. Oh, what, he just blamed his mother. I blinked. She nodded. That's the first crack, I frowned. What do you mean? She leaned forward. Guilty people panic. I said nothing, they start changing their stories. She pointed toward the phone. And your husband just did exactly that. I looked at the screen. She was right. An hour ago I was a cheater. Now, his mother had gone too far. I sat back down. My head hurt. Everything hurt. Then my phone rang again. This time I answered. Ethan, a long silence. Then, where are you? Safe. Claire, I closed my eyes. I can't believe you do this. His breathing changed. You left. You threw me out. No, your mother pointed at the door and screamed for me to leave. Silence. You packed my suitcase. More silence. I held our daughter while your entire family looked at me like I was garbage. Claire, you didn't stop them. Nothing. I felt tears building again. Then I heard him whisper, I didn't know it would go this far. I froze. What? I thought. He stopped. What did you think? Nothing. Ethan. I don't know. I stood up. No, that wasn't right. I thought. Those were his words. I thought. As if this entire thing had started somewhere else. As if someone had put an idea in his head. A terrible idea. The room suddenly felt cold. Then I asked quietly, who gave you the DNA report? Silence. Ethan. Still nothing. Who gave it to you? A long pause. Then, Mom found the company. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Rachel's eyebrows shot up. I put the call on speaker. You didn't even choose the laboratory. No. Did you verify it? No. Did you ask me about it? No. Did you ask for another test? No. I couldn't believe this. You destroyed our marriage because of an internet report your mother found. Silence. Then I heard him breathing. Fast. Nervous. Then he whispered, I just wanted the truth. I laughed, a terrible laugh. No, Ethan. Silence. You wanted permission. What? You wanted a reason. I didn't even know where the words were coming from, but they felt true. You wanted an explanation for why our marriage wasn't working. That's not. You've been distant for months. Silence. You stopped calling me. Silence. You stopped looking at me. Silence. You were already gone. I took a deep breath. And this DNA report gave you a reason to blame me. Nothing. I knew I was right. Because he wasn't arguing anymore. Then I asked, do you honestly believe Lily isn't your daughter? A long silence. Then, I don't know. Those 3 words broke my heart. Not because he doubted me, but because he doubted her. A little girl who adored him, who ran to the door every evening screaming, Daddy's home, I couldn't do it anymore. I hung up. Immediately Rachel spoke. He doesn't believe the report. I looked at her. What? He doesn't. How do you know? She shook her head. Because if he truly believed it, he'd be furious. I frowned. He sounds confused. I thought about that. She was right. He didn't sound angry. He sounded scared. Then my phone buzzed. A text. From General Hayes. Captain Carter. Call me when you're awake. I think I found something. I stared at the message. Rachel stared at me. Neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, what did he find? I looked down at the phone, and for the first time that night, I had a terrible feeling. A feeling that this wasn't really about a DNA test. A feeling that something much bigger was hiding underneath all of it. And somehow, Lieutenant General Robert Hayes had already seen it. I didn't wait until morning. I called General Hayes immediately. He answered on the second ring. Captain. Sir, you sound awake. I am now. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, I apologize for texting so late. No, sir, you said you found something. A long pause. I did. I sat up straighter. Rachel was watching me from across the kitchen. I put the phone on speaker. What is it? General Hayes exhaled slowly. When I got home tonight, something about that DNA report kept bothering me. I didn't say anything, so the first called someone. Someone? A friend of mine works with military legal services. He also used to oversee forensic accreditation. I frowned. Okay. I sent him a picture of the laboratory listed on the report. I felt my stomach tighten. And, silence. Then the company doesn't exist. The room went still. I looked at Rachel. She looked back at me. What? The website exists. I couldn't breathe. But the laboratory doesn't. I slowly stood up. What does that mean? It means the company isn't licensed. I gripped the counter. It means there are no certified technicians. I couldn't speak. It means there is no accredited testing facility. Rachel covered her mouth. And then General Hayes said the words that changed everything. Captain, I believe the DNA report is completely fake. The room started spinning. What? The company appears to be a shell website. I sat back down. No? I'm sorry. No. I looked at the table. This couldn't be real. This couldn't possibly be real. Because if the report was fake, then none of this had happened by accident. Someone had planned it. Someone had wanted this. Sir? Yes? Why would anyone do this? A long pause. I don't know. I closed my eyes, then he added, but I think you need to ask yourself another question. What? Who benefits if your marriage ends? I froze. The question hit me like ice water. Who benefits? I had never thought about it, not once, because the first had been too busy trying to understand why my husband didn't trust me. But now, someone had created a fake DNA report. Someone had destroyed my marriage. Someone had thrown me and my daughter out of our home. Why? Who benefited? I suddenly heard Rachel inhale sharply. I looked at her. Her eyes were huge. What? She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly reached for her phone. What? She looked at me. Claire, what? 3 months ago, didn't Ethan quit his job? I frowned. Yes, and wasn't he supposed to start a business? Yes, she swallowed. What was the business? I blinked. Real estate. She stared at me. How much money did he need? I felt cold. About $150,000. The kitchen went silent. Rachel whispered. And who has $150,000? I couldn't breathe, because I knew the answer. Me. I did. I had inherited money from my grandfather 2 years earlier. $180,000. I kept it in a separate account, my emergency fund, my future retirement fund, money that I never touched. Ethan knew about it. He knew every penny. The room suddenly felt too small. General Hayes was still on the phone, Captain. I barely heard him. Rachel slowly spoke. If he divorces you, I looked at her. If he proves infidelity, I looked at her. In some states, it can affect financial settlements. My heart started pounding. No, no, no. General Hayes's voice became serious. Captain, I swallowed. Sir? I think you need to check your finances. My blood turned cold immediately. I opened my banking app, typed my password, waited. The account loaded. I stared at the screen and then I couldn't move. Rachel's face changed. What? I couldn't speak. Claire. I slowly turned the phone toward her. Balance $12,417. She looked at me, then back at the screen, then at me again. What? I couldn't breathe. No. My voice barely worked. No. I refreshed the page again. Same number. Rachel grabbed the phone, started scrolling, and then she went completely pale. Oh my God, what? There are transfers. I snatched the phone. My hands were shaking. There were 6 withdrawals. Over the last 7 weeks. Large amounts. 20,000? Then I saw something even worse. Every transfer had been approved from a device linked to our home computer. He took my money. Rachel looked horrified. I started shaking. The fake DNA test, the divorce, the accusations, the humiliation, and now this. It all crashed together at once. I finally understood. This wasn't about Lily. This wasn't about cheating. This wasn't even about our marriage. It was money. I heard General Hayes inhale sharply. How much? Almost all of it. Silence. Then his voice changed. Completely. Do not contact your husband. I looked up. Sir, listen carefully. His tone had become that of a commander giving orders. Take screenshots. I did. Every transaction. I did. Every transfer. I did. Every balance. I did. Email them to yourself. I obeyed. And then call your bank first thing in the morning. I nodded. Sir, if those withdrawals were unauthorized, this just became much more serious. I couldn't even think. My entire marriage suddenly looked different. Every argument. Every late night. Every strange phone call. Every time Ethan asked about my inheritance. Every conversation about investments. Every single thing. Then another memory hit me. 3 weeks ago. I had asked him how the business was going. He'd looked nervous. He'd changed the subject. I suddenly realized something. Ethan's business. Rachel looked at me. What? He never showed me any paperwork. Silence. No investors. Silence. No office. Silence. No employees. I looked at her. What if there isn't a business? The room went completely still. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. From Ethan. I opened it, and my entire body went cold. Claire, please don't check the account. I can explain everything. I stopped breathing. Rachel read the message, then looked up slowly. Oh, he's in trouble. I looked at the screen, again, and again, because there was only one question left. If Ethan already knew I was going to check the account, then who had just told him? I stared at the text message. Claire, please don't check the account. I can explain everything. The timestamp said it had arrived less than 30 seconds ago. I looked at Rachel. She looked back at me. Then we both had the same thought at exactly the same time. How does he know? She whispered. I slowly looked toward the window. It was after midnight. No one should know where I was. No one except General Hayes, Rachel, and Ethan. I immediately typed back. How did you know I checked the account? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, please answer your phone. I didn't. Another message arrived. It's not what it looks like. I laughed. A terrible, exhausted laugh. Because that sentence had probably ended more marriages than cheating. It's not what it looks like. I handed the phone to Rachel. She read the messages, then looked at me. He knows he's caught. My heart was pounding. Then the phone rang. Ethan. Again, and again, and again. By the 6th call, I answered. I didn't say hello, I simply listened. Claire. His voice sounded shaky. You checked the account, I closed my eyes. Yes, silence. Claire, I can explain. No, please, no. I stood up from the table. No, Ethan. You don't get to explain right now. He exhaled heavily. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. There it was again. That sentence. Not supposed to happen like this. As though there had been a plan. As though things had simply gone wrong. I gripped the counter. How much money did you take? Silence. Ethan. I borrowed it. I almost dropped the phone. Borrowed. You stole $167,000. No, I didn't steal it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We're married. I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course. That was his defense. We're married. As if marriage meant ownership. As if marriage meant permission. As if marriage meant he could empty my account. When were you planning to tell me? Silence. Ethan. I was going to put it back. When? Silence. When? I finally shouted. Rachel jumped. I never shouted. Not like that. Not ever. Then Ethan whispered, I lost it. Everything stopped. The room, the air, my heartbeat. What? Silence. I lost it. I couldn't speak. What do you mean you lost it? No answer. What does that mean? I heard him breathing. Fast. Uneven. Then the business failed. I sat down slowly. There was no business. I knew it. I knew it. How much is left? Silence. Ethan. Almost nothing. I covered my mouth. Oh my God. Rachel's face went white. I suddenly felt sick. Actually sick. I ran to the sink. I thought I might throw up. $180,000. My grandfather's money. Gone. Years of savings. Gone. My daughter's college fund. Gone. My future. Gone? All because I trusted my husband. Then I heard Ethan crying. Actually crying. I didn't mean for this to happen. I turned around. You stole my inheritance. I was going to fix it. You accused me of cheating. Silence. You used a fake DNA report. Silence. You threw me and your daughter out of our home. Silence. Then I whispered, why? And for a long time, he didn't answer. Finally, I heard him say, because I needed more time. I frowned. What? I thought, if everyone believed you cheated, my blood turned cold. He kept talking. I thought the divorce would move faster. I couldn't breathe. No. He continued. I thought I'd have more time to replace the money. The kitchen went completely silent. I slowly sat down. Because I suddenly realized something. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't panic. This wasn't confusion. He had planned this. Maybe not every detail, maybe not from the beginning, but at some point, he had made a choice. A horrible choice. He had decided to destroy me to protect himself. I whispered, you were going to let everyone believe I cheated. Silence. You were going to take my daughter. Silence. You were going to ruin my career. Silence. And all of this was because you lost money. I heard him crying harder. I was scared. I closed my eyes, scared. He was scared. I almost laughed because I had been terrified, humiliated, destroyed, and all because he was scared. Then I asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted answered. Did your mother know? Silence. I froze. Ethan. Nothing. Ethan, did your mother know? Then yes. The word hit me like a truck. I couldn't move. Rachel covered her mouth. I felt my entire body go cold. Since when? Silence. Then his expression became serious. I need you to listen carefully. Yes, sir. Don't argue with them. I frowned. What? Don't defend yourself tonight. I didn't understand, he continued. People who have already decided you're guilty don't change their minds because you argue louder. I stared at him. They change their minds when the facts become impossible to ignore. Those words stayed with me. Then he added, and something about this entire situation doesn't feel right to me. I looked at him. What do you mean? He looked back toward the house. Then he said the sentence that would change my entire life. I think your husband knows a lot more than he's admitting. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for 5 minutes. Rachel opened the door before I could knock. She took one look at my face, then at Lily sleeping in my arms, and immediately stepped aside. What happened? I couldn't answer. She saw the suitcase, then the tears. Oh my God, she wrapped her arms around me. And that was it. I broke. Again, 3 hours later, I was sitting at her kitchen table. A cup of coffee sat untouched in front of me. Rachel listened quietly while I told her everything. The fake DNA test, the accusations, the divorce, the humiliation, the general, the entire thing. When I finished, she simply stared at me. Then she said, Ethan did what? I nodded. She stood up, started pacing, then sat down again, then stood up again. No. What? This doesn't make sense. I looked at her. Exactly. No, seriously, this doesn't make sense. She pointed toward me. You've been obsessed with that little girl since the day she was born. A weak smile crossed my face. You used to leave training exercises early just to make it to daycare pickup. I looked down. You practically worship your daughter. I didn't answer. Rachel sat back down. And Ethan knows that. I looked at her. What are you saying? Known for 2 months. 2 months. She knew my money was gone. She knew the DNA report was fake. She knew I hadn't cheated. And tonight? She had looked me in the eye and called me a liar. I suddenly remembered something. 3 weeks ago, Patricia had invited me to lunch. Out of nowhere, she'd been strangely kind. She asked me questions about my finances, my retirement, my savings. At the time, I thought she was just making conversation. Now, I understood. She'd been checking how much I knew. I whispered, "She helped you." Silence. Then yes. I felt numb. Completely numb. Then another thought hit me. One so awful I almost didn't want to ask it. Whose idea was the DNA test? Silence. I stood up. Ethan. Nothing. Then finally, Mom's. The room exploded. Rachel literally stood up. Oh my God, I couldn't speak. Patricia had created all of this, the fake laboratory, the fake report, the accusations, everything. Then I remembered something else. Something General Hayes had said, who benefits if your marriage ends? Not just Ethan, Patricia. She had never liked me, never. I was the military wife who wasn't home enough. The daughter-in-law who didn't ask permission. The woman who made more money than her son, the one she could never control, and now, she had finally found a way to get rid of me. I felt something changing inside me, the sadness, the confusion, the heartbreak, all of it. Slowly, it became anger, cold anger, the dangerous kind. Then I heard Ethan's voice. Claire, I said nothing, please say something. I looked at Rachel, then at my phone, then I asked one final question. Did you ever doubt that Lily was your daughter? Silence. A very long silence. Then no, I closed my eyes. The tears came immediately, not because I was sad, because I was furious. You knew. Silence, you knew. I'm sorry. No. I shook my head. No, you're sorry you got caught. Claire. I hung up. Immediately. Then I blocked his number. The room was completely silent. Rachel stared at me. I stared at the table. Neither of us moved. Finally, she spoke. What are you going to do? I looked up slowly. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed. A new message. Not from Ethan. Not from Patricia. From General Hayes. Captain, I spoke with someone in military legal services. I think you need to see an attorney first thing in the morning. And bring every financial record you have. I read the message twice, then a third time. Because suddenly, this wasn't just a divorce anymore. This was fraud. And for the first time that night, I realized something. I wasn't the one whose life was about to fall apart. Ethan's was. I didn't sleep. Again. By 6 in the morning, I was still sitting at Rachel's kitchen table, staring at my laptop. Every bank statement, every transfer, every email, every transaction, printed, organized, labeled. The military had taught me something very important. When your world falls apart, document everything. Rachel walked into the kitchen wearing pajamas and carrying 2 coffees. You haven't moved. I looked up. I don't think I can. She placed a mug in front of me. Then she noticed the piles of paper. Oh, I nodded. I found more. She sat down. How bad? I slid one statement across the table. She looked at it, then frowned. What is this? That's where the money went. She looked up. A construction company? I nodded. At least that's what the account says. She kept reading, then looked confused. I thought Ethan was opening a real estate business. So did I. Silence. Then she looked at another statement, then another, then another. Claire. What? These transfers don't make sense. I frowned. What do you mean? She turned the paper around. The account names, the dates, the amounts. Then she pointed. Look. I looked. She was right. Every payment had gone to a different company. A construction company. A consulting company. A logistics company. A property investment group. I frowned. Why would he do that? She slowly looked up. I don't think he did. A chill ran through me. What? I think someone was telling him where to send the money. I stared at her. Then my phone rang. General Hayes. I answered immediately. Sir? Good morning, Captain. You said I should see an attorney. Yes, he paused. Actually, I already arranged it. I blinked. What? My former legal officer owes me a favor. I almost smiled despite everything. Of course he did. Her name is Melissa Grant. She'll meet you at 9. I looked at the clock. It was 7:15. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. Something in his voice made me sit up. What is it? A long pause. Did you review the bank records? Yes. And? I don't understand any of it. Another pause. Then I may understand more than I want to. I froze. What? I need you to answer a question. Okay. Has your husband ever mentioned a man named Richard Cole? I frowned. No. Think carefully. I did. Nothing. No, sir. Silence. Then I was afraid of that. The room suddenly felt colder. Who is Richard Cole? Another pause. A very dangerous man. I blinked. What kind of dangerous? I don't know how much I should say over the phone. I looked at Rachel. She looked concerned. Sir? I've seen that name before. I swallowed. Where? During an investigation 3 years ago. Every muscle in my body tightened. What kind of investigation? Silence. Then financial fraud. The room went completely still. What? Several shell companies. I looked at the bank statements. Construction company, consulting company, investment group. Suddenly, my stomach dropped. General Hayes continued. Most of the companies were fake. I couldn't breathe. Money would disappear through multiple accounts. Rachel slowly sat down. And then? It was eventually tied to investment fraud. I whispered, Oh my God, Captain. I barely heard him. Read me the company names. I grabbed the papers. My hands were shaking. The first name, then the second, then the third. Silence. Long silence. Then damn. My heart stopped. Sir? One more pause. I know one of those companies. I couldn't move. What? It was investigated 2 years ago. I looked at Rachel. She looked terrified. General Hayes exhaled slowly. I need you to listen carefully. I gripped the phone tighter. Okay. I don't think your husband lost your money. I froze. What? I think someone took it. The room disappeared. What? I think your husband got involved with the wrong people. I couldn't speak. Rachel couldn't either. Then General Hayes said something even worse. And if I'm right, he stopped. Sir? You may not be the only victim. I stared at the papers. Every company name suddenly looked different, like puzzle pieces. Pieces I didn't understand. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then another. Unknown number, then another. Rachel frowned. Who is that? I opened the messages. The first one read, Tell Ethan to answer his phone. The second, he owes money. The third, this is your only warning. I couldn't breathe. Rachel slowly looked up. Claire, another message arrived. We know where your daughter goes to daycare. Everything stopped. The world, the air, my heartbeat. I read the message again. Then again. No, no, no. Rachel grabbed my phone. She read the screen. Then she went pale. Oh my God. I stood up so quickly my chair fell over. The room suddenly felt too small. I couldn't breathe. They knew about Lily. They knew where she went. General Hayes was still on the phone. Captain? I couldn't answer. Captain? Rachel finally spoke. Sir, someone just threatened Lily. Silence. Complete silence. Then General Hayes's voice changed. Immediately. Read me the message. She did. The silence afterward felt endless. Then, do not leave the house. I looked at my phone. Another text appeared. Tell Ethan to pay what he owes. Then another, you have 24 hours. I whispered. What is happening? General Hayes's voice became cold, very cold. Captain. Sir? Pack a bag. I froze. What? Pack a bag for yourself and your daughter. I looked at Rachel. She looked terrified. Sir. Do it now. The command in his voice left no room for argument. Then he said the last thing I expected. I'm sending someone to pick you up. I blinked. What? You and Lily are not staying there. I couldn't process what I was hearing. Sir, is this really necessary? A long silence. Then, I think your husband may owe money to people who don't care about laws. I felt cold. Ice cold. And if they believe you know where he is, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. Because I suddenly understood. The fake DNA test, the missing money, the shell companies, the threats. This wasn't just fraud anymore. Something much bigger was happening. Then another message appeared. This one made my blood run cold. You should have stayed out of this, Captain Carter. I stopped breathing. I had never given anyone this number except family and the army. Whoever sent that message knew exactly who I was, and that terrified me. General Hayes spoke again. Claire? Yes, sir. Lock the doors. I looked toward the window. My hands were shaking. Sir, yes. I swallowed hard. I think they're watching us. Silence. Then, move away from the windows. I did immediately. Then he said 4 words that changed everything. I'm calling federal agents. I locked the front door, then the back door. Then I checked the windows. Twice. Rachel pulled the curtains shut. Neither of us spoke. The house suddenly felt different, smaller, darker, unsafe. For the first time since everything started, I was actually afraid. Not for me, for Lily. I looked toward the guest room. She was still asleep. Completely unaware that someone had just threatened her. A little girl who still thought monsters only lived under beds. I felt sick. My phone rang again. General Hayes. I answered immediately. Sir, 2 people are on their way. Who? A federal agent and a military investigator. I blinked. What? I don't want to take chances. I swallowed. Sir, this seems like a lot. Claire. The tone in his voice changed. I've spent most of my life around dangerous situations. I listened. And right now, my instincts are screaming at me. I didn't know what to say, he continued. People don't threaten children over ordinary debt. A chill ran through me. And they certainly don't know the daycare schedule of someone they've never met. I sat down slowly. Because he was right. This wasn't normal. Not even close. Then he asked, Do you know where your husband is? No. When did you last see him? Last night. Silence. Then I need you to think carefully. I frowned. About what? Has Ethan been acting differently lately? I thought about it. Then suddenly, yes, very differently. He started taking phone calls outside. Anything else? He kept changing passwords. Anything else? He was nervous all the time. I closed my eyes. He stopped sleeping. Silence. And, I took a deep breath, he bought a second phone. The line went quiet. Then when, about 2 months ago, a long pause. Captain, yes, I don't think your husband was running a business. I looked down. I know. I think he was trying to solve a problem. I frowned. What kind of problem? Silence. Then the kind that gets people hurt. The words sent ice through my veins. Suddenly someone knocked. 3 hard knocks. Rachel jumped. I stood up. The entire house went silent. Another knock. Then a voice. Federal Bureau of Investigation. I froze. Rachel's eyes widened. I slowly walked to the door, looked through the peephole. A man in a dark suit, a woman beside him, both holding credentials. I opened the door. The man held up his badge. Special Agent Michael Torres. The woman nodded. Major Susan Reed, Army Criminal Investigation Division. I looked at them, then stepped aside. They came inside. Agent Torres looked around, then directly at me. Captain Claire Carter? Yes. I'm afraid we need to ask you a few questions. I swallowed. About Ethan. The 2 investigators exchanged a glance. That wasn't a good sign. Agent Torres nodded. Yes, I felt cold. Is he okay? No answer. I looked at both of them. Is my husband okay? The major spoke first. We don't know. I blinked what Agent Torres pulled out a notebook. When was the last time you spoke with him? Last night. And where was he? At his parents' house. The agent nodded. Then he said, Mrs. Carter, your husband is missing. The room disappeared. What? We've been unable to contact him since early this morning. I stared at him. No. We believe he left the house sometime around 3 a.m. No. He hasn't answered his phone. I couldn't process what I was hearing. Rachel looked just as shocked. Missing? The agent nodded. We also have reason to believe he withdrew money from multiple accounts yesterday. I frowned. He looked at his notes. Approximately $48,000. From what accounts? The agent slowly raised his eyes. His parents. Silence. Complete silence. I almost laughed. He stole from them too, Agent Torres continued. We believe he may have been trying to leave. I sat down slowly, because suddenly, I saw it. The panic. The phone calls. The fake DNA report. The threats. He wasn't just trying to protect himself. He was trying to escape. Then Major Reed spoke. Captain, I looked up. Did your husband ever mention someone named Richard Cole? I froze. The room went silent. Why? The major's face changed. Because I hadn't asked who is Richard Cole, I'd asked why, she noticed. Agent Torres noticed too. Mrs. Carter, you've heard the name. I swallowed. Only today. From who? General Hayes. The two investigators looked at each other. Then Agent Torres exhaled. Then you need to know something. I felt my heart pounding. What? He closed his notebook, then looked directly at me. Richard Cole isn't a businessman. Silence. He isn't an investor. Silence. And he definitely doesn't own construction companies. I couldn't breathe. Then he said Richard Cole is the alias of a man currently under federal investigation. The room went completely still. For what? A long pause, then financial fraud. I nodded slowly. That part I knew. Then he continued. Identity theft. I swallowed. Then money laundering. I stared at him. Then extortion, my heart skipped, and finally connections to organized crime. The entire room froze. No one moved. No one breathed. I whispered, What? Agent Torres looked exhausted. We believe your husband became involved with people who promised quick money. I couldn't speak. And now, he stopped. Now what? The agent looked directly at me. Now we think he's trying to disappear. A terrible feeling settled in my stomach. No. Then another thought hit me, an even worse one. If he's missing, the agent nodded. Yes? Then who sent the messages? Silence. No one answered. I looked at all of them. Then slowly. I realized why, because they didn't know. Then someone knocked again. 3 sharp knocks. Everyone in the room froze. Agent Torres immediately stood. Major Reed placed a hand near her sidearm. Another knock. Then a voice. A woman's voice. Claire? I stopped breathing. I knew that voice. I looked toward the door. No. Another knock. Claire, open the door. Rachel looked horrified. Because she recognized the voice too. It was Patricia, my mother-in-law. And she sounded terrified. Then she screamed, Claire, please. They're looking for Ethan. Everyone in the room froze. Then she said 6 words that changed everything. He stole money from dangerous people. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Patricia was still outside the front door. Crying. Begging. And according to her, Ethan had stolen money from dangerous people. Agent Torres slowly looked at me. Do not open the door yet. I nodded. Major Reed moved toward the window and carefully looked outside. Then she frowned. She's alone. The FBI agent still didn't move. Open it. I unlocked the door. The moment it opened, Patricia stumbled inside. She looked terrible. Her makeup had run down her face. Her hair was a mess. She looked like she hadn't slept. The second she saw me, she burst into tears. Claire. I just stared at her. This woman had called me a liar less than 24 hours ago. Now she looked terrified. She looked past me. Then she froze. Because she noticed the FBI agent and the military investigator. Her face went completely white. Oh no. Agent Torres stepped forward. Patricia Miller? She nodded. Barely. I'm Special Agent Michael Torres. She looked like she might faint. I didn't do anything. Nobody said anything. She looked at me again. Claire, please. I folded my arms. What? She started crying harder. We need to find Ethan. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We. Please. I shook my head. No. Her face crumpled. Claire, no. I took a step back. You don't get to come into this house and ask me for help. Fresh tears rolled down her face. I know. No, I don't think you do. Silence. You accused me of cheating. She looked down. You called me a liar. More tears. You threw me and your granddaughter out of our home. She couldn't even look at me anymore. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. I laughed. A cold laugh. Because it was too late. Far too late. Then Agent Torres stepped forward. Mrs. Miller. She looked at him. When did you last see your son? She wiped her face. This morning. What time? Around 3. The room went silent. The exact time Ethan had disappeared. What happened? She swallowed. He came over. I frowned. Over, she nodded. He came back after Claire left. I looked at her. He was panicking. Agent Torres took notes. What did he say? Patricia looked terrified. He said they were going to kill him. Nobody moved. Who? I don't know. She looked around the room. He wouldn't tell me. Then she started crying again. He said he made a mistake. I looked at her. What kind of mistake? She closed her eyes. He said he owed money. Silence. A lot of money, the FBI agent nodded. Then what happened? Patricia took a shaky breath. He asked us for money. I blinked. Us, she nodded. He wanted everything. The room suddenly became very quiet. How much did you give him? She looked embarrassed. $48,000, exactly what the FBI had said. My father-in-law's retirement savings, gone. Agent Torres wrote something down. Did he say where he was going? No. Did he mention Richard Cole? Her face changed instantly. The entire room noticed. Agent Torres noticed too. You know the name. No, Mrs. Miller, I don't. He stepped closer. Please don't lie to me. Her hands started shaking. Then she whispered, I only met him once. Silence. Every person in the room froze. I stared at her. What? Patricia covered her face. Oh God, I couldn't believe it. You met him? She nodded. The FBI agent slowly closed his notebook. Tell me everything. She took a deep breath. Then another. Then finally spoke. It was about 6 weeks ago. Nobody interrupted. Ethan invited me to dinner. She looked sick. He said he had investors. Investors. I closed my eyes. There it was. The fake business. He introduced me to a man named Richard. The room stayed silent. He was charming. She laughed bitterly. Very charming. The FBI agent didn't react. He said Ethan was building something big. I felt sick. He said Ethan was going to make millions. Patricia looked down. And I believed him. I looked at her in disbelief. You encouraged this? Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was helping. I couldn't even speak. She continued. He said they needed more capital. My blood ran cold. And Ethan said you had savings. The room went completely silent. I stopped breathing. No. Patricia looked up at me, her face shattered. I'm sorry I couldn't move. You told them about my inheritance. She nodded. I felt something break inside me. You told strangers about my money? More tears. I thought it was for the business. I couldn't believe this. The fake DNA test. The missing money. Everything. It all started because she couldn't keep her mouth shut. Then she whispered. When the business started failing, the room went quiet again. Richard changed. I frowned. What do you mean? He became angry. She looked terrified. He started demanding money. How much? More. How much? Everything. I couldn't breathe. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. He told Ethan that if he didn't pay, she stopped. Agent Torres spoke softly. If he didn't pay what? She looked at me, then at the floor, then whispered. They would come after his family. The room went completely silent. I instinctively looked toward Lily's bedroom. Agent Torres looked grim. When did this happen? A month ago. A month. An entire month. Ethan had known. An entire month. And instead of telling me, he stole my money, created a fake DNA test, and destroyed our marriage. I suddenly understood everything. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was trying to save himself. And in doing so, he destroyed everything. Then Patricia said something else. Something none of us expected. He came to our house this morning. I frowned. Who? She looked up. Richard. Every person in the room froze. Agent Torres slowly straightened. What? He came looking for Ethan. The FBI agent's expression changed completely. Mrs. Miller, are you absolutely certain? She nodded. I'll never forget his face. The room became deathly quiet. Then Agent Torres asked, What did he want? She looked terrified again. He wanted Ethan. And? He said if Ethan didn't come back? She started crying. What did he say? She looked at me, then whispered. He said he'd collect the debt another way. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because every person in that room understood exactly what that meant. Then, a loud engine sounded outside. Everyone froze. Another engine. Then another. 3 vehicles. Stopping. Right outside the house. Major Reed moved to the window. Then her face changed. Agent Torres. The FBI agent looked up. What? She slowly stepped back from the curtain. We have company. My heart stopped. Who? She looked directly at him. Then she said 4 words. They found us already. Nobody moved. The entire house had gone silent. 3 vehicles, outside. Right now. Agent Torres stepped toward the window. Slowly, carefully. He pulled the curtain back by less than an inch. Then his expression changed. Not fear. Something worse. Recognition. Major Reed noticed immediately. What is it? The FBI agent kept looking outside. Then he whispered, Damn, my stomach dropped. What? He turned toward us. Everyone move away from the windows. Nobody argued. We all stepped back. even Patricia. She looked like she might faint. Then Agent Torres pulled out his phone. Dispatch, this is Special Agent Michael Torres. I need immediate assistance at my location. A pause. Then, no, this isn't a drill, another pause. Then his face became serious. Yes, it's him. The room went completely silent. I looked at Rachel. She looked terrified. I whispered, him. Nobody answered. Then, a knock. One knock, very calm, very deliberate. Every person in the house froze. Another knock, then a man's voice, deep, calm, almost friendly. Mrs. Carter, I stopped breathing. The voice continued. I know you're in there. Silence. I'd like to have a conversation. Nobody moved. Patricia suddenly started shaking. No? I looked at her. No. She looked absolutely terrified. Then she whispered, that's him. The room froze. Richard. He was outside. Right now, the man everyone had been talking about. The man behind the shell companies, the threats, the money, everything. Another knock. Mrs. Carter. I couldn't move. Then the voice said, I don't want any trouble. Agent Torres slowly removed his badge from his pocket, then looked at me. Do not answer. I nodded. The voice continued. I only need 5 minutes. Silence. Then, I believe your husband has something that belongs to me. I felt cold. Ice cold. Another knock. I'd appreciate your cooperation. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Lily's bedroom door opened. I turned. She stood there in pink pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit, rubbing her eyes. Mama? Every adult in the room froze. She looked around, then smiled. Grandma? Patricia burst into tears. I immediately ran toward Lily, picked her up. It's okay, baby, she frowned. Who's outside? I couldn't answer. Then the man outside spoke again. This time louder. Mrs. Carter. Silence. I know your daughter is awake. Every ounce of blood left my body. The room went dead quiet. I looked toward the door. No, no, no. How? How did he know? I looked at Agent Torres. His face had gone pale. The man continued. Little girls should be asleep this time of morning. I couldn't breathe. Rachel covered her mouth. Patricia started crying again. And then I realized something horrifying. He wasn't guessing. He could see us. I immediately moved away from the windows, clutching Lily tightly. Agent Torres spoke into his phone again. Units need to move now. Then he looked at Major Reed. Get everyone to the back of the house. She nodded. Immediately. Everyone move. Nobody argued. We all headed toward the kitchen. Lily wrapped her arms around my neck. Mama, it's okay, even though it absolutely wasn't. Then a phone rang. Everyone stopped. It wasn't mine, it wasn't Rachel's, it wasn't Agent Torres. Slowly, Patricia reached into her purse. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the screen and went completely white. Agent Torres frowned. Who is it? She couldn't speak. Mrs. Miller? Finally, she whispered. It's Ethan. The room froze. I stopped breathing. What? She looked like she might collapse. It's Ethan. Agent Torres stepped forward. Answer it, she nodded. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. She answered, Ethan? Silence. Then suddenly she started crying. Oh my God, I couldn't hear his voice, only hers. Ethan, where are you? Silence. Then her face changed completely. The blood drained from it. No, silence. No, don't say that. The room became very still. Then she whispered, You're hurt? I felt cold, very cold. Then she started crying harder. Ethan, where are you? A long silence. Then she looked directly at me. Then at Lily, then back at the floor. I didn't like that look. Not at all. Then she whispered. Okay. Silence. Okay, I'll tell her. The call ended. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Agent Torres stepped forward. What did he say? Patricia looked up. Tears streamed down her face. He said Richard found him. Silence. My heart stopped. What? He said they took everything. She started crying again. He said he made a terrible mistake. I couldn't move. Then she looked directly at me. Claire? Something inside me tightened. What? She swallowed. Then she whispered, He wants to talk to you. The room froze. What? He said. She broke down. Agent Torres stepped closer. What did he say? She looked at me again, then repeated his exact words. He said. Her voice shook. Tell Claire I'm sorry. Tell her Lily was always my daughter. And tell her where I hid the flash drive. Silence. Absolute silence. I frowned. What flash drive? Patricia blinked. He said you'd understand. I don't. Then she whispered the last thing Ethan had said. The thing that changed everything. It's taped under Lily's old high chair. The room exploded. I froze. The old high chair. I knew exactly where it was. Our garage. At the house. The house we had been thrown out of. Agent Torres' eyes widened. Flash drive? Patricia nodded. He said it has everything. The FBI agent looked at Major Reed, then back at me. Everything. Patricia swallowed. He said, Silence. Then, he said it proves who Richard really is. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Outside, the man knocked again, calm, patient like he had all the time in the world. Then his voice came through the door one final time. Mrs. Carter. Silence. You should know something. I felt my heart pounding. Then he said, "Your husband isn't coming home." The entire room went cold. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I was terrified that he might be telling the truth. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Outside, Richard Cole stood on the front porch. Inside, we had just learned there was a flash drive hidden under Lily's old high chair, and somehow it had become important enough for Ethan to risk everything. Agent Torres looked at me. "Where's the house?" I swallowed. 20 minutes from here. He nodded once, then looked at Major Reed. "We need that flash drive." She agreed immediately. Another knock came from the front door, calm, patient. Then Richard's voice, "Mrs. Carter." Silence. I'd hate for this to become unpleasant. Every hair on my arm stood up, then sirens, far away, then closer, and closer. Richard went quiet. The room froze. Blue and red lights suddenly flashed through the curtains. 3 seconds later, car doors slammed outside, a lot of them. Agent Torres exhaled. "About time." Then came a shout. "Federal agent, step away from the house." Silence. Nobody inside moved, nobody outside answered. Another command, then another. Finally, an engine started. Then another, then another. The vehicles outside sped away. Major Reed looked through the window. "They're leaving." Agent Torres immediately grabbed his phone. "Suspects are fleeing. Black SUV and 2 pickup trucks heading south." He listened. Then copy. The room slowly exhaled. Patricia collapsed into a chair. I sat down with Lily still in my arms. I suddenly felt exhausted. Completely exhausted. Then Agent Torres looked at me. "We need to get that flash drive." 1 hour later, 4 FBI vehicles and 2 police cruisers surrounded my house. The same house I'd been thrown out of less than 24 hours earlier. I got out of the car slowly. Everything looked normal. The porch, the flowers, Lily's toys, it looked exactly the same, but nothing was the same anymore. Agent Torres nodded toward the garage. "Let's do this." I opened the garage door. Lily's old high chair, folded, covered in dust. I stared at it, then slowly turned it over, and saw it. A piece of gray tape. My heart started pounding. I peeled it back. A black flash drive dropped into my hand. The entire garage went silent. Agent Torres looked at it, then at me. "That's it." 30 minutes later, we sat inside the FBI field office. The flash drive was plugged into a computer. An analyst opened the files, then stopped. "Oh." The room went quiet. Agent Torres stepped forward. "What?" The analyst looked pale. "There's a lot here. Folders, documents, photos, bank statements, wire transfers, fake companies, hundreds of names, thousands of transactions." Then another folder appeared. "Richard Cole, real name." The analyst clicked it. A driver's license appeared. Then another, different names, different states. Same man. Agent Torres exhaled slowly. "My God," I frowned. "What?" He looked at me. "Richard Cole isn't his real name." Nobody spoke. Then he added, "We've been trying to identify him for 4 years." I blinked. "What?" "He runs financial scams all over the country." More files appeared. Victims, businesses, families, millions of dollars. Then one final folder, insurance policy. The analyst opened it, and the room went silent because my name was on it. I stared at the screen. No. Beneficiary, Ethan Miller. Policy value, $1,500,000. I couldn't breathe. "What is this?" The analyst kept scrolling. Another document. A recent update. Date, 3 weeks ago. Coverage increased. Again. I looked at Agent Torres. He looked horrified. Then he slowly said, "I don't think the DNA test was the original plan." The room went cold. "What?" He looked at the screen, then back at me. "I think someone wanted access to your insurance money." I couldn't move. Patricia burst into tears. "No." I looked at her. She looked devastated. "No." The analyst clicked another file, a recording. The room filled with Ethan's voice. I froze. "Ethan?" The recording continued. Another voice. "Richard." Calm. Cold. "You said your wife travels often." Silence. Then Ethan. "Yes." "Richard, accidents happen." The room stopped. I couldn't breathe. Then Ethan's voice again. "No." Silence. "I won't do that." Richard laughed. "Then find another way to pay me." The recording ended. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then I realized something. Ethan hadn't created the fake DNA test to hurt me. He'd created it to save me, or at least to avoid something much worse. Agent Torres looked at me. "Your husband was in over his head." I stared at the screen. "He stole your money." I nodded slowly. "He lied." I nodded. "He betrayed you." Another nod. "But I don't think he wanted you dead." The room was silent. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Everyone froze. Agent Torres answered it. He listened, then his expression changed. "What silence then?" "We're on our way." The call ended. I looked at him. "What happened?" A long pause. "Then we found your husband?" I stopped breathing. "Is he alive?" Silence. "Agent Torres?" He looked at me, then slowly nodded. "Yes." Fresh tears filled my eyes. Where is he? The agent exhaled. Hospital. I nearly collapsed. He was found in his car. Silence. He'd been beaten. Patricia burst into tears again. But he's alive. I closed my eyes. Thank God. Then the agent added, and he wants to see you. Later that evening the hospital room was quiet. Machines beeped softly. Ethan looked terrible. Bruised. Cut. Exhausted. When he saw me, he started crying. Real crying. I stood beside the bed. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he whispered, I'm sorry. I looked at him. I believed that he was sorry. But some things break too completely. Some things don't go back. He looked at Lily, sleeping in my arms. Then he whispered, I never doubted she was mine. Tears rolled down my face. I know. He closed his eyes. I ruined everything. Neither of us argued. Because it was true. He looked at me again. I thought I could fix it. I said nothing. I thought if I got enough time. He started crying again. I thought I could protect everyone. I looked at him for a long moment, then I finally spoke. You should have trusted me. He nodded. I know. You should have told me. Another nod. I know. Silence. Then he whispered, Will you ever forgive me? I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I once loved. The father of my daughter. The stranger lying in that bed. Then I answered honestly, one day. He cried harder, but not today. He nodded, because he understood. 6 months later, Richard Cole was arrested. So were 3 of his associates. The flash drive had destroyed their entire operation. Patricia sold her house to repay my stolen savings. My father-in-law retired early. Ethan accepted a plea agreement and cooperated with investigators. He received probation and financial penalties. And me, I got promoted to Major General. Hayes pinned my new rank on my uniform himself. After the ceremony, he smiled. I told you facts become impossible to ignore. I laughed. For the first time in a long time, then Lily ran across the grass and jumped into my arms. Mama, I held her tightly because in the end I hadn't lost everything. I still had her. And sometimes, that's more than enough.